Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Debra Eckerling, creator of the Deb Method for Goal Setting Simplified. I'm also the author of Your Goal Guide and 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. You can't reach your goals on your own, you need your people. So every week I bring together some of my people. And the other thing I do is, as the book proposal expert, I help people create proposals that get interest from agents and publishers. So as whether your book publishing goals were for 2025 or you're running into 2026 with ideas, dreams of books or sugar plums or whatever in your head, figured it would be a great way to round down the year. And I've got friends from 3 different parts of my life, which, as you all know, unless it's on purpose, my guests don't know each other. And you might be watching this as GoalChat Live. You might be listening to us or watching the replay. But no matter how you found us, we are so glad you're here. And we're talking about authorhood. I don't know if it's a word, but I like it. So we're going to go with that. And with me today, I have April Davila. It's not fancy, right? Or is it?
It's a little fancy.
Oh, Dávila. See, I'm never going to get it right. See, this is what happens. We do in the pre-chat, and I forget to ask about pronunciation. That just means we have so much fun in the green room. Anyway, you came through a friend in real life, Rebecca, who I've done events with for the Lawyer Wellbeing Project, and she's like, my writer friends need to be writer friends. So April, thrilled to have you on here. Brenda Knight, my once and future and almost current publisher, founder of Books That Save Lives. I will let you tell the BTSL story in a moment, but always great when I get FaceTime with Brenda, who's like one of the busiest people I know, because if she's not championing books, she's championing people. So really excited to have you here. And Rob Lange, who I met because we did the Expert Impact Summit with Jack a few months ago. And my other guests are going to be bored because I said this twice already, but Rob is like a longtime friend I just met a couple months ago, because we are all about, and I think all of us are about helping people raise their voice so they can share their voice and impact, help get who you are and what you know out there. What I would love, though, because other than like some cursory information and that they're awesome, you know very little about my guests today. So I'm going to invite them all to introduce themselves better. So April, whose name I butchered, let's go first. Please share who you are, what you write.
Sure. My name's April Davila. I'm a fiction writer, and I help aspiring authors write more and suffer less. So that's through my coaching business. And one of the main ways that I do that is by incorporating mindfulness into the writing process, which works for both fiction and nonfiction. Just because my niche is with fiction doesn't, we can expand that to include nonfiction writers as well. But basically addressing things like imposter syndrome, writer's block, and all the things that we can study craft, but then when we sit down at our computer and we have that blinking cursor coming at us and we like freeze, that's my specialty. That's where I work best with writers.
The cursed cursor. Foiled again. Awesome. You mean writing is not supposed to be stressful? No, I'm kidding. We love it. We're writers because we want to be writers. And I am sure we will dive into that more. Brenda, welcome.
So happy to be here. And as of this year, or I think it was 7 months ago, I co-founded with Duncan MacLeod Books That Save Lives. And we actually already have 150 books, which is kind of unbelievable. We acquired a lot of backlist from a publisher I used to work for. But we're very selective. You have to be someone like Debra Eckerling before we'll take you on. But we're very happy with our authors and our publishing program. And I just feel very lucky. I feel really blessed to get to work with the writers that I work with and the colleagues. And so I'm sort of ending this year and ending this year with enormous gratitude. And I'm going to start the new year with a lot of gratitude and hope, that and hoping also that people realize and remember that books can really change the world. Books can change your lives. So 2026 for me is going to be like, bringing back books and reading, because if you pay attention to the news, like literacy is really down, but we can change that. Us here in this podcast, we can help change that.
Well, we can, because when we have something to say, and Brenda and I, we also do a pitch clinic as part of women. Well, it sprang up from Women's National Book Association San Francisco chapter, but to offer extra support for people in their pitching. And the whole idea is you want to get your book in front of as many people as possible. So whereas you might consider fleeting, I'm trying not to go on a tangent this soon, but I can't help myself. There are some people who need to go a hybrid, do it professionally for certain business reasons. But most people, you're writing your book, you want to get it out to as many people as possible, which means traditional publishing. And I think that's like a commission for a lot of us is let's bring it back, because you're writing your book for a reason. You want people to discover it. You need to make it as discoverable as possible. Again, I'm over tangenting. Anyway, more on that later. Except to say that, so 52 Secrets released the beginning of the year through the publisher that will not be named. It is making its way over to Books That Save Lives, and Brendan championed it. So
Yay.
Of course, it's so important to be back in her cheerleadery hands, even though that's usually a Deb word. Okay, we'll share it. Rob, how's that for a long lead into the next person? Welcome. Good to have you here.
It's great to be here. And this is so exciting because, like you said, you're teaming us up with people we have not met before previously, and just listening to the other ladies here is quite exciting. And I can see how we all share common things here. I'm been known worldwide as the expert for 38 years, and quite basically, what I do is I help people create the business behind their talents, skills, and area of specialty. I started out working with entertainers and in the entertainment industry. And one of the things I discovered very early on is people that are truly creative really enjoy and commit and love the creative process. But a lot of times where they lose interest or they just don't have the same passion for the business behind what we do. And it started with entertainers, and then I realized, my gosh, this is true of other creative types, speakers, writers, and authors, you name it. So I started taking on more clients rather than just entertainers, and it's been fantastic. I've met so many great people, helped so many people create the business behind what they do. And one of the 11 pillars that I use in my expert entrepreneur program is learning about teaching people about press and media. And when it comes to authors, and I don't mean this as a negative, but it's just an observation, and that is they put so much time and effort into their writing, their
Which
creating,
they should.
their vision. Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying not to do this. But the point is they put so much time and effort into the book and getting the book formatted and proofed and edited and laid out in the cover and the design and all of the essential steps. I'm not saying they're not essential, but they put very little effort into, okay, the book is done, now what? And I've had people come to me and I've helped them understand how press and media can really work in the process. A lot of people think you have to wait till the book is out, and that even isn't true. But I help them get press and media upon its release. I actually help them do some pre-release information, media coverage, and when it's released, of course, reviews and release information. I help them do book signings and coordinate promotions. I even help them do book tours or show them how to use press and media to do book tours. And help them put a little more thought and effort into the promotion part of it, the marketing and promotion. And what's very interesting with me is I find people the first time they do it, and this is an afterthought. But what really excites me is when they do a follow-up book or subsequent work, they do it now with the press and media in mind. That's part of their process, where the first time it wasn't. So I really enjoyed that, and opened up a lot of people's eyes to things that, as as authors, and those that self-publish, that they don't realize. We can do book tours, we can get you in libraries, and there's certain media within the industry that they can tap into, and it just opens up a whole new world of possibilities for them. So I'm very excited to be part of this. This is great.
Well, and it is, all three of you speak to the three different phases, right? Whatever order is in, right?
Yeah.
Sit down, write the book, get it published, and get yourself and your book out there. Although you really actually need to do the Rob step first, because what I do with book proposals is you're selling a concept, but you're also selling yourself as the expert. So one might even argue that as you are writing the book and or book proposal, you need to be getting press in order to elevate. But before we do that rabbit hole, I would love to know what each of you's definition is of authorhood. So what does that mean to you? And Brenda, let's start with you on that one.
Well, you've actually written your book. You're not using AI.
Thank you for that, Brenda.
Yes.
Please don't do that, because authorial voice is everything. Like who you are comes through, like ideally comes singing off the page, because you've put your whole self into it and worked on your craft, and you've really honed your voice, and it just comes singing off the page. So authorhood is you're writing, and you're writing the very best you can and doing a lot of polishing. And then you are taking it to the next step, exactly as Rob says, and doing your promotion. And you should do that instead of dread. All the time in Pitch Clinic and Pitch-A-Rama and other things for the Women's National Book Association, Debra Eckerling and I see that people get nervous the minute you say the word platform. That you should just view yourself as, a carpenter, and every action you take is like another plank in that platform, and it's just getting bigger and taller and stronger. Like being on podcasts, like this, getting reviews, doing author events and tours like Rob was suggesting. There's all kinds of small and medium and large size things you can do that can really establish you, and then suddenly people are hearing about you, and suddenly there's word of mouth, and suddenly they're seeing articles and write-ups and listing for your events and things like that. So it's the alpha and the omega. That's what I think authorhood really is.
So it's writing the book and also getting it out there.
Yes.
It's not just the one piece. Okay, April, how do you define authorhood?
Yeah, and this is an interesting question, because I always tell people that to call themselves a writer, all they have to do is write. So I like to encourage people, if they have like aspiring writer in their Instagram bio, whatever, take the aspiring. If you write, you're a writer, but authorship is something different. And authorhood, I think, is defined by when you are actually published. And I, like you, Deb, and I think all of us here, are a big fan of traditional publishing, because our job is to write, and then the publishers do their job of putting the book out there. But the platform is part of that. I work with my authors on building their platform, and I always tell them, like, a simple website, one social media channel, and a list. I think those are the things that authors really need to have as they transition from just being a writer, which, I mean, even if you just journal, even if no one ever reads your work, you're a writer. But if you want to be an author, it's a little bit different. Authorhood is when your work is put out there for consumption. And if you want to reach an audience, you do have to build a platform, and you do have to think about these things that are beyond just putting words on the page.
I years ago, I led writer support groups at Barnes and Noble, and I would have people come in all the time and they're like, I want to be a writer. And I would say that exact thing. Have you written things? What do you do? Blog posts, whatever content to get out there? Sure. So I love that. If you're compelled to write, if you're compelled to get your books out there, work toward becoming an author, which is what the conversation is about.
Yes.
Rob, definition.
They say all of us have a book within us. And I tend to believe that. But I think in my experience, those that have done the best enjoy the process. I mean, it is a process to write a book. And unless you're doing research, a research book or something technical, I think personality is a big part of an author. I think, and you'll notice that in authors from like their first works to their latter works or subsequent works, is they get more comfortable. They get comfortable with who they are as an author. Their personality or style is more apparent. And I think, they say, like I said, all of us have a book within us. I think a lot of people have more than one book in them. And after they do that first one, the biggest problem is getting started. Everybody gets stuck at getting started. And once there's a few hurdles that once you break through, boy, you can really get into your groove. And I think that's what I encourage with people I work with is it's like, I do believe success is created in the business behind what we do. But we're only as good as that product. So go ahead and put your time and effort into writing this book. Don't skip steps along the way. Learning and experience will take you far in this. But as you do this, put yourself into this, your personality, your style. And I feel people follow authors as much as for that personality as they do with their content. I mean, when you have both together that resonates with people, you've got a fan for life. And, whatever you write, people will, you write 3 or 4 more books. I've encouraged people before in the past, some of those I've consulted or worked with, they said, I think I'm going to do a book on this. And then if this goes well, I'd like to do a book on that. And they're just random thoughts at the time. And it's like, okay, let's do this. Let's commit to a series. Let's do a 3-book series. And one feeds into the other. And there's momentum that you from the press and media angle, but I'm also certain from the writing angle too. So I really think that's it. I think it's enjoy the process, open yourself to the process. If you don't know the process, there are plenty of people like the ladies here that you can turn to. And it's all part of the learning process. Once you learn it, then you might be fine on your own. A lot of people aren't fine on their own. They have these close partners or teams that they use to help them with all of their works. But I think that's a lot of it is commit to it, get to it, put your personality into it, and let that guide you. I think personality is just as important as the content.
Yes, and I feel like I need to make an important differentiation, which is when you're writing fiction, you need to write the whole thing.
Yeah.
When you're writing nonfiction, it's the book proposal with writing sample, which I always think is hilarious because the whole thing is a writing sample, even though the book proposal is in the third person.
Right.
If who you are is not showing through, you're doing something wrong. And in the case of memoir, you want the full manuscript ready to go. But for most nonfiction, it's the sample, few chapters, but planning out what you're writing, but also what are the future books, because no publisher wants a one-trick pony. They want a multiple-trick pony. Isn't that right, Brenda?
That is correct. They're investing in you, and they'd like to feel like, it's not just they're investing not in just one book, but like a whole series or like your future. I mean, I always sort of the minute I sign a book, I'm always thinking already about like what the sequel is, because if you acquire a book as an acquiring editor or publisher, you're interested in them, you like their writing, you probably like who they are, how they present themselves, excuse me, and like what they're about. They're even like a value match. because with books that save lives, value match is very important. And we love that when we feel like simpatico with the authors and that, we're trying to make it a better world. But yeah, any agent, any acquiring editor, any publisher is wanting a pony that has many tricks.
Okay, so for what makes a book or author stand out, Rob says personality, Brenda says future thinking, right?
Yes.
April, what do you think?
Oh, I think the individual story is I mean, I work in the realm of fiction, so it's a little bit different, but the creativity that people bring to their stories, I think, is what really makes them stand out. Unusual POVs or unusual plot lines, or when people really kind of shed what they think they're supposed to write and really start writing the thing they feel called to write. I think that's when it gets really interesting.
Awesome. Okay, so my next question you all have answered already in your intros, which is beyond writing, what goes into being an author. But I would love to know anything else that maybe people normally don't think of, what goes in the authorness process. Brenda?
Sort of if writing the book and getting it out there is the top of the iceberg, what's the rest of the iceberg?
Yes. What is the rest of the iceberg?
Yeah, there is a lot. I would say that they need to start networking. So they need to take a page from the Debra Eckerling networking guide. That's when you're getting endorsements, like when you're asking for beta readers, which I know is, essential in fiction to get critical input so that you can have your book be the very best. You need to be making friends with your local bookstore. Like that's one of the little secrets that I tell writers all the time. Like, what's the closest bookstore to your neighborhood? And there's usually an independent bookstore that they shop at. I said, introduce yourself to the owners. They're book lovers too. They need to know that you're a future local author and that they can, bookstores love to have local author tables. You walk right into the store. There's the local author table has signed books and announcements of events and things like that. So I think there's all these layers of networking. It's just I know it's funny for, you're the networking queen, and it's funny for me to be talking over and over and over again about networking, but that's very important. It really is.
Well, and networking actually was last week's GoalChat because, and I say this at the top, I'll say it at the end, I'll say it now, you can't reach your goals on your own. So the more people in your network are the more people around you. And of course, please, yes, and me all you want, Brenda. But I love the local part too, because people don't think about it. I was at a brunch on Sunday with some of the people that I went, movers and shakers, community builders, and I mentioned I have a signing coming up in Santa Monica, January 24th. Oh, tell me, I want to be there. So you're actually doing your community a favor when you tell them you've got an author event, because they want to be there, but they can't be there unless you tell them.
I'm going to guess in you, Deb.
Oh, please.
So the Book Passage in Corte Madera is one of the most important, biggest, most successful bookstores in America. And for the last 3 years, it's a local author that has been their best-selling book. And they started out selling dozens, then hundreds. Now it's thousands of copies. And I wish I could remember her name, but when I say who she is, you're all going to, especially the LA people, are going to know. It's Ma from Little House on the Prairie, the actress that played Ma. And my mom loves that show and watches reruns. So I know who she is. And I didn't know that she lived in Marin County and wrote a memoir about being on Little House on the Prairie, and then other interesting facts about her book. So she went in and introduced herself to my friend Nancy Fish, that actually works there at the Book Passage. And she said, I wrote this book. Like, she introduced herself, and Nancy's like, I know who you are. uh, and so then Nancy said, why don't you come and do like an event? And then they did, and it got like a huge turnout, because it turns out it's not just my mom that loves reruns of Little House on the Prairie. Like many thousands of people do. And so then it turned into this rolling thing where, especially around the holidays and Mother's Day, and right now, it's the holidays. So she just does stock signings. They order in cases of the books. She signs them as gifts to, people. Reminds me, I should probably be running over there to get one for my mom. But like, that is a local author made good. And what I like is about the story is that she was humble about it. She wasn't like, I'm, a very successful actress and everybody knows who I am. She was like, I'm a local author and I wrote this book and I'm wondering if you can carry it. And now it's their biggest selling book of the last 3 years.
And the author is Karen Grassel, because of course I Googled.
Thank you.
But the important message too is it doesn't matter where you are on the author scale. You get the right bookstore, they're going to want to promote it. You're looking for win-win-wins all around. April, beyond writing and promotion, what goes into being an author?
Well, first of all, I love my local bookstore. I'm a first name basis with my local bookstore, my local librarian. Like, I think it's so important to know like the people who love books in your neighborhood. And then in terms of like, what's the tip of the iceberg and what's underneath, my perspective from more of the writing side is that the tip is so small compared to everything else that is under there. But one thing, and I'm going to echo what was already said, but that community is so important. I think finding a writing group, people that you can write with, people that you can swap pages with. I have a community that I've grown over years. I started it during COVID because I was just lonely and I wanted to write with people. But we meet online every day at 9:30 Pacific. We all log on. We do a short meditation. We write for an hour and then we just kind of hang out. And those people, and it's not just me, like they make connections with each other. And like every time I go anywhere, I've got writer friends, somebody somewhere in the country. And those are the people that they're in the acknowledgements of my new book. They are supporting each other. And I think so often people dismiss community, especially during the writing process. We have this, I don't even know where it comes from, like this idea that you have to do it all yourself, all by yourself. And then you can bring in the team to help you publish and promote and all that. And the team is just as important in the writing process. You've got to find people, because isolation breeds self-doubt every time. If you try to go it alone, that little voice will kick up in your head. And if you don't have other people to say, oh yeah, we know that voice, you can just tell it to be quiet. That's part of the process. Then it'll get the better of you and you'll stop writing. And I think that is like the biggest tragedy in the world. So finding your fellow writers and building that community. People dismiss it as a nice to have. It's not a nice to have. It's an essential part of the writing process.
Ooh, I am so with you. And I mentioned my live group before, which is also my Write On Online community. So if anybody, which I expanded to writers, creatives, and entrepreneurs, because if you're one, you're the other too. But that group is all about, your people, place to share what you're working on and then celebrate the wins, because this is the secret, I think, in the writers community. We're all different, so we're all rooting for each other.
Yeah.
Okay, Rob, dig deep into the beyond promotion brain of yours. Beyond writing, what goes into being an author?
Well, I think April hit on something there that and Brenda too, with the local library, the local networking. But I think it's all about relationships. When you stand back and you look at it from above, there are so many relationships. Most of us do not do it all ourselves. We need others. And often we don't know where to turn for others, whether it's, like I say, editors, cover designers, resources once your book is done to get press and media. distributors. There's just so many things, and every step of the way, the word relationship comes up. And I think that's something that people talk about their team, or I've got this person or whatever, but in reality, it's all about relationships. And the other thing, as the ladies were talking, that came to me is knowing how, and I know this sounds, like something that should already be there, knowing how to speak about you and what you do. I cannot tell you the amount of people that put their heart and soul into something. It's done, and they're ready to promote it. They're ready to, so excited and pumped up and full of fire, but they can't speak about who they are or what they did or what inspired the book or the reason for the book or what they're accomplishing or who it's for. Who
the book is. You'll ask them, what's your book about? And they'll ramble on for 20 minutes. And you're like, no, just tell me.
And that's so important in all the aspects, not just the press and media, but like we were saying about networking, about opportunities for promotion, collaborative ventures. That's such a key, and this is really in business in general. And you would think that speakers and authors, this would be a no-brainer and they would have this down like the back of their hands. But you'd be amazed at the amount of people that overlook that. They've worked on this book for months or whatever. You think they would be able to give a nice synopsis of it, or what motivated them, or what they hope the reader will get out of it, or whatever. But just be able to communicate and talk about your work, yourself and your work, and then be able to use that in your relationships.
I believe very strongly that communication is the best superpower anyone can have, whether it is talking or writing. And when you learn it, clearly, I did competitive public speaking. That was my fun thing in college. I have always believed in the importance of being able to get your words out. But the younger you can start talking, the better you're going to be for anything in life. Okay, if you're listening, everybody is smiling and nodding and completely
absolutely
agreeing with me. So that's my thing. What do you think is one skill that you developed young that you're using now in authorhood or whatever it is that you do? April is laughing. She gets to go first.
I'm laughing a little because in college, my friends used to joke that I could not be trusted. Because I would make up stories, and I feel so privileged that now I get paid to make. That wasn't like an intentional thing. I just and to be clear, I'm not a liar. I don't lie, but I like a good story. And my husband and I still have the debate. If someone says, how'd you guys meet? He'll say a mutual friend introduced us, and I'll launch into the 20-minute good story version, which is absolutely true and has so much more flavor. But yeah, I think it's always been my superpower is to embellish, maybe is the word. And I feel like such a privilege that I get to embrace that as my calling, as my vocation and my living.
Awesome. I love that. What about you, Brenda?
This takes me back to the 4th grade where I wrote little essays about amazing and important women of the Revolutionary War, and I won a national award. I think that one of my teachers said that I seem to have be a good little writer, and then she had everyone in the class enter this thing, and then I won, and then I was just sort of laughing inside myself, thinking that that came to fruition when I did the Book of Awesome Women series. The Book of Awesome Women has I think it's 100 women from all fields, and so I guess what I got positive affirmation as a little kid, and then I applied that to my publishing career.
And don't you also write affirmation-y type content as
Yes,
well,
yes,
Brenda?
yes. So I have the two different. So I'm just doing what I did in the fourth grade.
Amazing. Okay, so growing up, I always thought I was going to write the great American novel. So the fact that I work in nonfiction, I think is hilarious. So like maybe once a year. I think maybe I'll double it this year. I spent a couple of hours working on something fictiony, but it's all with the basis of writing. It's all the basis of communicating. But it's very funny. My co-author of the book that's coming out in the fall said, "Hey Deb, do you want to write a novel next?" And I'm like, okay. Just because I feel like young Deb is like having a little party, but grown up, apparently me, loves, the puzzle behind nonfiction, which is why I'm so very much in alignment with that. Rob, what about you? I know what you're going to say. Let's see if I'm right.
No, you don't know this one. I'm going to throw you for a curve here. I think the thing that I learned very early on, and I've always had this split thing in my life. When I was an entertainer, I wanted to also be an agent. I was just infatuated with the business side of it as I was the artistic. And so when I started writing, I realized very early on about writing from two different levels, two different perspectives. And everything that I do, I always try to look at the audience, or in this case, the reader's point of view, or how they're going to perceive something. And everything that I do and I create, so many people are, it's just me based. This is what's in my head. This is the story I want to tell. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I also pay attention to how it's being received or perceived, or how the end user or the audience, whether it's press and media, whether it's the person that purchases the book, whether it's me talking about the book to someone, how they're understanding and perceiving it. And that's helped me a lot in the sense of how I would maybe want to tell a story might be different than the way they're hearing it. And so if I create it with that in mind, it ends up being usually universally better, and it works on both levels. So that's something that for somehow, some way, I've always had this dual perception thing. And when it came to writing, that was early on. I had some very old school mentors, and that's kind of another thing that maybe fits into this too. Is a lot of people, Brenda mentioned AI and all that. I still think old school is still very much a way to do things. And two of my earlier mentors were George Burns and Steve Allen. And Steve Allen also wrote a lot of books. And we had some crossover where he would do things together. And I always listened to him say, he goes, I write two sets of books, the books of things I want to say or tell, and then the things that I know important to people are that I want to write for them to understand. And it just stuck with me, I guess.
I am loving the Wayback Machine. So, Brenda, April, what is something that people don't normally know about you that you think really fits in with this career?
Should I go first?
Yeah, because April's clearly thinking, and I knew you'd have an answer.
The only other podcast I've been on recently is We Are the Compassionate Revolutionaries. And I tell the story, which I'll try to tell in like 1 minute, which is that I wanted to be an international businesswoman. And when I moved to San Francisco, I got a job at a very large import-export company. And my goal was to become a buyer. So because I thought shopping, traveling the world and shopping on somebody else's dime was the perfect job. And so I had to work really hard to get that promotion. And then I finally did. And then I saw that the products were being made in some cases by children in India and and also in, all around the world, actually, but particularly India and China. And in that moment, it was like my dream job. I realized it was a nightmare. And I told my boss that he shouldn't exploit children, and that I wouldn't, and that I was quitting my job right there. So that's something almost nobody knows, is that I'm an international businesswoman that accidentally became a publisher.
And what from that skill set do you use every day? Probably everything.
Sales.
Right. Like I said, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Because apparently ethics is a good thing. I think so.
Agree.
I mean, when I was doing 52 Secrets, when I was doing the outreach, I would ask people, who else do you know who needs to be in this book? They need to be someone who's all about uplifting others and someone I would be friends with. And I said that at least 24 times before I realized it was the same person. You have to be of the giving spirit, because that's what connects us all. And I think that I'm trying to tie it back, the whole ethical layer, being who you are and genuine, that all is part of this picture of good, giving, human, etc. Okay, wrapping up my rambling for now. April, what about you? What's a good April story?
Yeah, so most people don't know about me that I actually was a biologist before I became a writer. And this is something I find over and over again with the clients who come to work with me, is that we all, for some reason, thought we couldn't be writers. We had to go do the practical thing, right? Get the good job, raise the family, do all the things. So I went to Scripps College. I was a marine biologist, and I love science, but if you go back to my earlier comment about being untrustworthy, I was not very good at it. I loved writing lab reports, so people love to be my partner, but I wasn't great at collecting data because I'm not a detailed person. Even in my writing, I hire someone to do the copy edit. I'm the idea person. And I absolutely no regrets, because I learned really early on how to do good research. And research is one of my favorite things about being a writer. I love that you can call pretty much anything research when you're a writer. You can go to a bar and have a whiskey and call it research, right? If you need to write a scene that's set in a bar and someone's drinking whiskey, you can, travel to wherever, whatever you're doing, you can call it research. But there's also a legit part of knowing how to do research that really does help writing. And I imagine it's even more so in nonfiction. But I guess that would be the thing. Yeah, I have stories as a marine biologist that I won't fill up here, but nobody really knows that about me. Yeah,
I love that. But that's really the part about being the author that people don't think about, is it is all the different parts. It's all the different experiences. They make you who you are. And that's what you bring to whether you help others, but also for your own work. I'll do mine real quick. I had a quiet face. No one believes me. Okay, Rob, did you have something else from your youth that you want, now that I've phrased it in the form of a question, you wanted to add?
Well, first, I know I want to do some research with April. If she goes to a bar to have whiskey, I'll do it.
It's all research.
Right. I always knew I was looking for, I was a learning junkie. I like to know things that were beyond my years. And I remember being 12, wanting to know some information at the time about entertainment business that didn't exist. And it was just so odd that I went to library. In those days, there was no internet. You went to libraries and you did your research.
I think most, if not all of us, remember libraries.
Yes. Well, it's so funny, but because when I talk about press and media to people, anybody under 30 thinks I'm talking about social media, and I have to actually stop and say, no, I'm talking about mainstream media. But I really paid attention to what didn't exist that I wanted and couldn't find. So I think I was probably that pain in the neck kid that everybody, that's why I say a couple mentors took me under their wing, and thank goodness, because I don't know if they did it because they thought I was young and cute or just to get me out of their hair. But either way, I wasn't afraid to ask questions. And I think that was the big thing, is I was an entertainer for years, starting at the age of 12 years old, back when family acts were big, the Jacksons, Osmonds and the Carpenters and the Beach Boys and the Cowsills. So it's a long way from where I am today. But when you hear the whole story together, it makes sense. And one thing kind of fed to the other. I don't have any other than my first entrepreneurial venture. I sold worms. If that's got anything. I was 10 years old. I wanted to ask my parents for some money, and they said no. You can earn some money. And I said, oh, and we live by a lake, and all these fishermen would go fishing early in the morning. So on my summers off from school, at night I would go out and catch night crawlers or worms. And then in the morning, these fishermen would come by and they'd pay me like $3 for a little cup of worms. And my parents got upset because they used to come and knock on the door and wake the whole family up. So my parents said, if you're going to do this, go set a card table up next to the street, next to the, we didn't have curbs, so they were gravel. Go sit out there and then sell them out there. So at the age of 10, I had the first drive-up bait shop in my town. It had nothing to do with writing, but it got the entrepreneurial juices going.
But it's all of the little pieces of you from your youth lead to. And I always said, I went on my little fiction tear. When I was a teen, if someone said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would say, doesn't matter. I want to have an impact. And I think that whole having an impact theme is another one of those things. What goes into, yes, I will actually bring it back to the topic. What goes into authorhood is the desire to have an impact. Your words aren't yours. They're words that other people need to hear and you don't, or read, and you don't necessarily know who needs to read it, but you need to share it for whoever's out there waiting for you. Anyway, should I ask another question before we do goals? Okay. We'll call this speed round. What do you all think is the most important element of the author platform? Because I think we agreed the actual writing is number one, but having a platform so people can get this knowledge is number two. So for whoever is tuning in or listening, what is the one non-negotiable author platform thing? Rob, you're going last because we know what you're going to say. April.
For me, the non-negotiable is the newsletter.
Okay.
It's
Why?
the one thing I own that, your social media could disappear tomorrow, TikTok could get taken down, whatever. My newsletter is that's my lifeblood of my writing business. Yeah.
Okay, Brenda.
Mine is actually the same as April, but I did want to say that I think actually that Rob and April really do need to do some research together.
That would be fun, and then report back.
After hearing the worm selling story, because there's a little marine biology in there too. So I think that they absolutely must, and hopefully it's like toasting the new year. So I will say I agree that email newsletters are very powerful, but I will add to that being able to present your books, like speaking about your books, events, author events, speaking engagements. That's how many people, including that fantastic person that
Ma, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's how many people make their living that way. Many writers make their living that way. Like they get paid to talk and they get to sell their books too. So it's a very
best life ever.
Yeah, it's a very valuable skill. If you don't have it, you really can learn it with the help of Toastmasters. But I would say that Women's National Book Association, San Francisco chapter, like in advance of Pitchorama, we do all kinds of pitch coaching and training, and people could pick up a lot from that too. Don't be scared of it. Look at it as a challenge that you can do, and you can do it. You can speak about your book in a way that no one else can, because it came from you. You have the passion, and just show that, and that'll light up the room and sell some books, and people will invite you back.
Okay, before we get to Rob's answer, will you explain what Pitchorama is? Because you and I have been talking about it because we know it so well.
Yes. So Pitchorama is the highlight of the year for the San Francisco chapter of the Women's National Book Association. It is the last Saturday in April. So it's the last Saturday in April of 2026. And we're going to have 25, possibly more, but 25 agents and publishers there that are looking for the next great book or books. And so you get 6 minutes with each one of them, and you get to pitch, and many of them will say, send me your query, here's my email. And I would say that every year there's usually 100 people pitching, attending. And I would say every year there's at least a dozen people that get authors and agents and book deals. But last year was much more. I think it's like at least 25 people and counting. So Pitchorama is a place. It's on Zoom, and you're it's a lovely little community also that developed with the help of people like Deb. And so it's a place where you can sign up, register, and have your book dreams come true.
And so leading up to Pitchorama, we do a variety of events in Q1, starting with I'm doing my book proposal lunch and learn on January 15th. And I will put these links in the recap at thedebmethod.com/blog. But the whole purpose, in tying back to what you were just saying, is offering resources in the form of panels and workshops to help people get ready to pitch and get the book deal. Because if you want authorhood, it's within your grasp, but you need to commit to your story, but also to building your author platform. So Rob, what is the most important part of building your author platform? You thought I forgot.
No, I think there's a few things. I think the press and media, knowing how to promote it, but a couple of things have been said along our way here today. And that is, I do agree with speaking. When I said people have to know how to speak about their business, speak about their book, speak about themselves. Speaking is a skill that every author really should have. I think, and it opens a whole new opportunity as well when you become known as the authority or expert in what you do. Speaking opportunities come up about that, depending on the kind of book you're writing. But I also think sales was brought up, and to me, there's sales, there's marketing, and promotion, and all of those are part of the book process. And I think that's something that needs to be understood, needs to be exercised. And
I love that you took notes. This is amazing.
Brenda mentioned sales, and you can go off so much into sales. So I started getting too deep, and I crossed a few things out. But I just think that we've got to look at the whole thing. But I really think that that's the superpower, is when you know that your product is done and good in the way you want it, and you're happy with it, and then you can take that excitement and personality and speak to people about it, talk to people about it, promote it. And when you're educating people, you really don't have to do a hard sell at all. I mean, there are people out there that want what we do, whether it's fiction, whether it's nonfiction, whether it's research, whatever. And we may not see them, so we don't always think about them, but out there. And these are the people that we got to direct everything to.
Absolutely. And that is part of the book proposal. In the author platform section, it's wherever you are in the world, on and offline. Mm-hmm. And that includes where you are leading workshops on and offline, where your communities are, and your ability to get your book out into the marketplace.
Yeah.
So, okay, a lot of smiling and nodding. Boy, the time went fast. Okay, it's time to gift goals. So what is one thing a current or future author can do to work on their authorhood goals? April, you want to start us out? What goal are you gifting today?
Sure. I think just to stay on the topic that we've been talking about and building your audience, and I think even when you are just beginning writing, to start thinking about I always like to phrase it, who would you invite to your book launch party? And I always encourage people to make a Google Doc, something that you can have on your desktop and on your phone, so that when you're out and about, if you meet someone and you tell them about your book and they say, oh, I want to hear about it when it comes out, put them on your list, like right then and there. They won't remember you, but you can email them later and be like, hey, remember when we met 3 years ago and you wanted to hear about my book? It's out. And just keeping track of all of those people, or if you hear a radio show that's about a book that's kind of similar to yours, and like, okay, that radio host likes books like mine, put their name on the list, even if you don't have their contact info yet. Like, just start making the list of everybody who may or may not be interested in your book, so that you have that to reach out to them. Because sometimes we get so focused on the writing that we forget that part is coming. And then we turn in the book to the publisher and they're like, great, who do you know that we can tell about this book? And you're like, and you don't want to be in that position. So you want to have a list of having already been on a podcast talking about writing the book, have your blog, have your newsletter subscription list, anyone and everyone who might possibly be interested in your book. Start building that list now, even if your book is years out. I mean, all the better, right? Your list will be that much longer by the time you get there.
I love that so much. Start building your list now. Awesome. Rob, goal?
I think sometimes we get so engrossed in our writing. We know what it's all about. We know where we're going. We're knowing the questions that we're trying to decide or the directions we're trying to go. But I think when it comes to my area of things, is creating clarity in your message, clarity in how you talk about it or describe it. And I also think having the right tools. If people require a bio or a one sheet or anything that you need to really convey what you're doing clearly and concisely, and much like April in the keeping an emailing list and people, that's, to me, in any business, that's gold. If my business burnt down tomorrow and I could only save one thing, it would be my list, my mailing list. You know what I mean? I could start up tomorrow and go to town. But I think the same is true with media contacts. I teach people in my program to do the same thing, think from their perspective, but also create a media list, because if they like you, if you have a successful relationship, which I mentioned earlier with them, they'll be more than happy to invite you back, or you be able to go back with future releases. And so I think it's having the right tools, being concise, clear and concise on your message. Yeah, you know it like the back of your hand, but what's the best way to communicate that to somebody in a short period of time?
Okay, I modified what you said. Create clarity in how you describe your book verbally and in text, and start developing relationships with media people.
Yeah.
That work?
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay. Always an editor. Brenda.
Start polishing those speaking chops now. You don't need to wait until your book is out. People are always amazed by how much public speaking I have to do, like as a publisher, because I have to be speaking to our sales reps. I have to pitch them. The internal sales, almost the most important thing. And I actually read like 2 books about Steve Jobs' biography. It's not because I'm obsessed with him. He had a style of selling that, there's no accident that Apple's like the most valuable company in the world. It's because they had a really serious strategy about selling the product. Plus it's a good product. So I read his biographies. I read one twice in a row, and then I was like, okay, I get it. I understand what his technique is. And I started applying it to when I'm, teaching at the San Francisco Writers Conference, presenting at sales conference, etc. It works. So find your magic for speaking, polish that. I mean, if you need to, go to take some classes and things like that, like join the groups that help with that. But also you can, they're like churches and Lions clubs and things like that. They're constantly looking for speakers. So find a topic that like the back of your hand, come up with a really tight little talk, and then get yourself out there. And at a certain point, you'll get it to the point where you're so comfortable you can do it. And that's an incredible life skill. And I now can speak extemporaneously with just a Post-it that has keywords on it. but anyone can get there. You have to apply yourself. You have to really try, but find it, polish your speaking skills, and keep them up. Like, keep yourself out there. It makes a huge difference. It'll be probably the single most important thing you can do to sell your book.
Oh, I love that so much, because speaking like writing is one of those things that gets better.
Yes.
The more you do. I want to add a bonus goal, because I love what you said so much. Start getting booked on podcasts now. Everybody has at least 1, 2, or 5 friends that has a podcast. And if you're friends with me, you know I have one. And I do a meetup the third Wednesday of the month. So if we're not friends yet, you can come on like April did, and we can become friends, and I can get you. Because as I say, I bring together 3 friends. So you want to be on my show, come to my meetup, we be friends, boom, 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 easy peasy. But beyond me, I'm sure you all have friends who have podcasts, or they can recommend because their friend has a podcast. That is the easiest way to start developing the media section for your proposal, for your pitch, for your you. Anyway, yeah, we could totally do another hour without blinking, but we won't, don't worry. But before we wrap, I would love for you all to share where's the best place for people to learn more about you. So April?
Yeah, I'm April Davila everywhere, aprildavila.com, April Davila on social. I'm very easy to find.
Excellent. And Brenda?
Find me on booksthatsavelives.net.
Excellent. And also in 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal
That's
Getting.
right.
Share that one. Rob?
You can find me in my offerings at theexpertexpert.com, theexpertexpert.com. And if you need to email me, I'm happy to answer questions. info@theexpertexpert.com.
Amazing. And I am at the Deb Method everywhere. And if you go to thedebmethod.com/blog, you can read the recap, watch the replay, get the goals, get the ideas, get the inspiration. And I also include everybody's LinkedIn, except for Rob. We'll do your IG or something. Everybody's LinkedIn as well as their website. We're all in this together. Authorhood is about, as we said, elevating yourself, but also elevating your community. The more people in your community, the more everybody is successful. Okay, final thoughts. April.
Final thoughts. Just keep writing, don't give up, and find your community. They'll keep you going.
Okay, Rob.
I hate to quote Nancy Reagan, but just do it. There are more resources out there today, and I truly believe it's easier to do today, to write, than ever before. And whatever hangups you have, confront them and power through them, or connect with somebody that can help you get through them. But don't put it off. This is something that there's a feeling, a relief, a pride, just this whole sensory overload that happens when you get it done, and you're like, I should have done this years ago, or go for that. Don't let anything deter you, because the end result is much better than anything you're getting hung up on right now.
Yes, absolutely. I would say at least every other month somebody has just do it as their final thought, because that is the point. Because you're here, you've got authorhood goals. Why wouldn't you? And I will also put it in the recap. The bookproposalexpert.com is my book proposal website, as well as the one for Women's National Book Association. Lots of writers' resources there. April, you look like you wanted to say a thing.
Yeah, I wanted to add, if people do go to my website and they scroll down a little bit on the homepage, I have a little freebie that's all about like getting out of your own way when it comes to writing. And it's called 7 Mindset Hacks for Big Writing Results. And you can go and check that out if people are interested. I meant to mention.
Okay, well, thank you. I will put that in the recap as well. Okay, Brenda, you get the final thought.
Outreach to one person a day that you haven't talked to for a long time, or even just like a cold email, and offer an opportunity to call, network, see what you can exchange together. Like that one little networking tip per day has made a big difference in my life. I actually attended a speaking engagement in San Francisco that I didn't even want to go to, and was dragged along by a friend. and the speaker was super dynamic and said, do make that like your first thing you do when you get to your desk, like outreach to somebody new or somebody you haven't been in contact for a long time. And it actually was a revolutionary for me. So I highly advise it for anyone and everyone.
I love that because it ties back into you can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. And when you do this sort of thing, when you outreach, maybe they've got something good for you. Maybe you've got something good for them. Or maybe they know someone who knows someone who knows someone, or vice versa. But we are all in and that was really, the crux of 52 Secrets, the secret to success is there is no one secret. Get out there, try all the things, and you never know what good, wonderful things can come of it. Thank you all so much, April, Brenda, Rob, for being part of the last show of 2025. Oh my goodness, where did the year go? We all know. But we're all excited and set for accomplishing major authorhood goals in the new year. And like I said, friends, cannot thank you enough for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. I am, except for next week, I'm live every Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And you can subscribe to At the Deb Method on YouTube, and or subscribe to GoalChat, which is on the Marketing Podcast Network, but also the Book Proposal Podcast and Taste Buds with Deb, wherever you get your podcast. Goals, authorship, writing, media, it's all part of bringing who you are out into the world. So go on out there, go for it, because we know you can do it.